Hello there and welcome back. My name is Michelle and today we're going to talk about why it is that no one can agree on the type of any character from any TV show ever unless they are a clear and obvious stereotype, and even still, people cannot agree. Why is it that nobody is on the same wavelength with type? Honestly, this is one of the main reasons why people don't trust MBTI, because nobody can agree that one person is the same type in all systems, and let alone multiple people repeatedly across multiple systems. Everyone types people differently. And why is that? What's wrong with MBTI if people can't just type the same people the same way? How could somebody possibly be all these different personality types unless personality type is not real? And I'm here to tell you that although that does happen, personality type is very much so real. You recognize it. You see that there are people outside of yourself that have trends. Some people are more like these two friends, and maybe this friend is more like this group of people. There are always going to be connections between people that have similarities, and you can recognize those. It's pretty easy to recognize when one person is kind of like another person. That kind of recognition happens very easily. And so you have to recognize, and it would be ridiculous to disagree, that there are some common threads amongst people. There are things that certain groups of people do tend to do, or there is something to the way that people process information. Now, the biggest thing that causes people to have different interpretations of type is that they are interpreting actions and not thought processes. Now, if you even spend half a month in the MBTI community, you will start to learn that it stems from something a little bit more than some fun letter dichotomies. It stems from Carl Jung's psychological types, something that he wrote literally a century ago. All right, guys, we are gonna have a party next year to celebrate 100 years of actively loving, studying, and learning about the psychological types that Carl Jung first wrote about and published in 1921. That is almost exactly 100 years ago, guys. We're partying. We are doing something. There's gonna be an event. If it is the last thing I do, we must celebrate this, because although one day MBTI will probably become a religion and people are gonna look to Carl Jung as if he were Jesus, for the time being, we can rationalize it and realize that it's just a guy who had some thoughts, and his thoughts were kind of accurate, and we decided, hey, let me think on what you said, and let me consider how that might be right. And let me form a bunch of theories of my own based off the theories that you've thrown out there. That right there is reason number 2 why people type differently. Everyone has different interpretations of the psychological types by Carl Jung, and they have different systems they have created on their own, which are separate than the vague concepts which Carl Jung originally spoke about. Carl Jung didn't mention 16 types. He just talked about these cognitive functions, and there were 8 of them. Extroverted feeling, introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, introverted thinking, extroverted sensing, introverted sensing, and extroverted intuition, introverted intuition. That was it. He didn't have types. He didn't have anything crazy. He just was like, hey, these are some patterns I noticed. And then the myers-briggs ladies, they decided they're going to make this letter code to help people understand how the cognitive functions are stacked up and how they line up in people. They created their own theories to make it very usable and practical, and it worked. It helped people find things that were more fulfilling and enjoyable for themselves, because the psychological types helped indicate what their preferences might be for things like work and studies and that kind of stuff. And so MBTI became more mainstream, and because it became more mainstream, even more people decided to start interpreting it and coming up with their own reasonings. And then you get this thing called socionics, which is just like MBTI on crack. And then there are like 10 different major scientists within socionics who all have their own interpretations that do not match each other's interpretations of the psychological types. And then you have BB, and then you have Isabella. No, what's her name? Oh, what's her name? You just have all these different people who all have different interpretations, and none of them can really agree because they're all looking at different aspects of basically the same thing, which is the human mind, which is very hard to understand because we can't actually be inside the perceptions of somebody else's brain, and therefore we only have our own perceptions of our own brain. So each person is going to interpret MBTI differently, and we're all going to come to different conclusions about what types people are. And you cannot change that. That will never go away. There is not one unified source that is like, yes, this is the absolute, the 100% truth. There is no such thing with MBTI. There is not one perfect system which encompasses everything that's 100% accurate about people and about psychology and about personality. Because that one singular system does not exist, this is one of the absolute main reasons why people will never agree on types, and how some people may have different interpretations of the same character from a TV show or movie or book, and why they might have radically different ideas of what that person's type is. Unless you are using the same typing system as somebody else, the likelihood that you will get the same type is fairly low. Because your understandings of the cognitive functions and of MBTI, or maybe the dichotomies if you're using it at that higher level, you're never going to agree. How can you possibly agree? The best that we can come to in sort of coming to an agreement on type would be to use the letter dichotomies and to say, hey, is this person introverted, extroverted? Are they more logical? Are they more touchy-feely? Are they more intuitive and in la-la land? Or are they more censored and realistic? Or are they perceivers and all over the place and can't stick to anything? Or are they judgers and planners and they think everything through? We can try to use the dichotomies, and honestly, in many ways, that might be more effective on a broad scale to try to get everybody onto the same page as to a person's type. But as it is, I prefer not to use, personally, when we're getting into my personal opinion, I prefer not to use the dichotomies because I think that the dichotomies and the cognitive functions are so vitally different, and that if you use only the dichotomies, you're gonna struggle and you're gonna have trouble understanding the true MBTI. And as somebody who is an MBTI nerd, in case you haven't noticed, I just don't even know what to say about people who are not MBTI nerds. I'm jealous that you can just go on with your life with just accepting the dichotomies and never needing to learn more. But I needed to learn more, and I learned more, and I'm still learning more, and I still make connections every day as I meet more people and get the more broad spectrum of what a personality type is and how differently it can portray itself amongst different people. I really think those are the main two reasons. Now, if you are interested in typing characters, I am all for that. I am all for typing characters. But if you want to debate me on the character, so here's the thing. We're going to all type characters differently. It's going to happen. We're not all going to be able to agree on characters being the same type, which is why I wanted to make this video, because I am making a series where we rank different characters of the same personality type. I don't even know if all of the characters are 100% the type that I have put them on there, because characters are fictional and there's no way to know, and all we can do is conjecture Because we can't get inside the minds of the other person. That is one of the other reasons why typing the same is very difficult, because unless you're inside the mind and you know exactly what their thought processes are like, you just cannot know what their true type is. And some people are going to be very confident that they know the truth. Some people are going to be wishy-washy, and some people are going to have absolutely nothing to back up their claims. The thing is, if we're going to disagree, let's continue to disagree. This is good. This is helping us understand, because ultimately the disagreements show us where there are inconsistencies between the different systems that we're using for typing. If we can't all get the same answer, there are inconsistencies in the typing systems that we're using, or inconsistencies in our understanding and ability to apply the concepts that we're learning. So disagreeing and having these discussions about what is the true type for somebody is absolutely vitally important if you actually want to understand MBTI and you want to have a true, fully functioning concept and structure and framework for what MBTI is. I feel like I will continue to be learning the rest of my life and trying to uncover the truth behind the psychological types. And I will always try to type characters. I literally cannot watch a show without trying to type the characters. Like, there's no way to turn that off. When I talk to somebody in real life, when I chat with somebody on the phone, when I meet someone on the streets, I am instantly analyzing their behavior, so much so, and trying to categorize it. I can't turn that off. I love that part of MBTI because I was doing that long before I got into MBTI. I was always trying to understand people and what is different about them than me, and trying to categorize them and group them and connect people who were similar to each other. I loved doing that, and MBTI allows me a way to do that. And I want to be able to get it 100% right. And I want the objective right way. And as that is something that we can never fully achieve, all we can continue to do is have conversations and continue to chat with each other and be corrected when we're wrong and be triumphant when we're right and just continue the discussion. So yes, I want you to disagree, but just know it's almost impossible for anyone to agree on any one character's type. So believing that you're 100% right is probably a fallacy. I mean, I even know that. Like, I still need to hold a certain level of doubt because I'm not perfect and I can't perfectly understand everyone. And one of my biggest pet peeves, side tangent, is people who think that they know 100% what type somebody is. Oh my God. Relax on that, please. You don't. You have a good, solid idea, sure. You have a good, solid vibe, sure. But let's not pretend to be an expert, okay? What are your credentials? And even with your credentials, can you prove that you actually know it? I don't know. I need to see the proof in order to believe you. But anyway, I digress. That's really not the point of this. The point of this was just to express that we will never come to the same type. I mean, we might anomalously come to the same type, or if our understandings of MBTI are very similar, we will quite often come to the same conclusion. But as long as there is not one unifying source of what is truly MBTI 100% verifiable and without doubt, there will always be disagreements of typing. And as long as we continue to struggle to understand people who are different than us, we will always be unable to type the same. So that's my little rant. I hope you appreciate it. If you disagree, you've probably already written your 10-page thesis down below, but if you have not, go ahead and do so now. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy having you as a viewer and being able to discuss with you about MBTI, one of my favorite topics of all time. So thank you so much for sticking it out through this video and for sharing your thoughts if you have. And if you have not, go ahead and please share your thoughts. I love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to like and subscribe, that'd be super swell. And if you want to check out my Patreon, we do some coaching stuff, we do some hangouts, that's all cool too. And Nonetheless, regardless, whatever you do, I want to say that I hope you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye!